This show begins in Boston, 1783. As the country celebrates the end of the American Revolutionary War, a vampire hunter called Julia Belmont rushes to send her young son, Richter Belmont, across the ocean to France as she feels it will be safer for him to stay with his auntie Tara. Their family, the Belmont family, have mystical powers which they use to fight demons or vampires. Richter isn't happy because he is willing to help his mother in the battle. They suddenly gets intercepted by Orlox, an old and powerful Aztec vampire who harbors a grudge against Julia for killing one of his close ones. Julia orders Richter to escape to the ship, but the young boy instead hides at a corner to watch his mother fight. Everything gets epic and badass when Julia brings out her whip and engages in a fight with Orlox, using magic to protect herself from his attacks. Despite putting up a valiant fight, Orlox is obviously more skillful and powerful than she is. He transforms into a terrifying dragon. Richter comes out of hiding to assist his mother with his magic. Before his eyes, Julia ends up getting killed by the vampire brutally. Richter is overwhelmed by the shock, and that is when Orlox walked up to him explaining why Julia had to die and promised to kill him too, but not tonight. At this point in his life, a traumatized Richter loses the ability to use magic. The scene shifts to 9 years later, 1792, where the grown-up Richter is in a secret revolutionary meeting led by his cousin Maria in the woods of Vendee. Maria discloses that their king has been arrested because the government in Paris has overthrown their monarchy and declared it a republic. She urges her people to revolt against them. Richter lives with his auntie Tara Renard, Maria's mother. Maria and her mother are part of the Speakers, a group of nomad scholars who maintain oral stories and tradition. They also have magical abilities. During their meeting, 3 vampires attacks them. Maria unleashes her magic. Richter uses the whip he inherited from his mother. With an outstanding teamwork, they killed the vampires. Before they ended the life of the final vampire, he drops a message of their upcoming doom. The Messiah of vampires, otherwise known as the Devourer of Light, will soon show up at their country and eat the sun, ending the existence of human race. Maria is really curious to know who the vampire Messiah is. Richter suggests they should go pay a visit to Father Abbot Emmanuel at the church, who he believes might have a clue. Maria informs Father Abbot about the gathering of vampires in Chateau. The priest doesn't believe that, clearing out that Marcus is the pillar of their community who will never welcome vampires into his house. Anyway, he agrees to send spies in all corners of the area to be sure if Marquis opened his doors for the undead, and as well find out what they are planning. Jack, a member of the revolution, sees a woman with glowing eyes standing before him. She reveals herself as a vampire and sucked out the last remaining blood of the guy's body. Later that evening, Richter and Maria are confronted by some night creature. Maria's mother, Tara, comes to assist them. During the fight, 2 unknown people called Edouard and Annette shows up to help them. They introduce themselves as magicians. Annette received her powers because she came from the lineage of an African god, and Edouard is an opera singer who saved Annette's life from slavery. She explains further about the night creatures that attack them, which were being created from human corpse, and this kind of magic can only be performed by the dark mages, known as Forge Masters. Meanwhile, we see Orlox once again, that ancient vampire that killed Richter's mother, arrive by a ship. He tells a messenger Vaublunk to inform the vampire Messiah of his arrival. On the other hand, Annette explains that their master Cecile told them to find the last surviving member of the Belmont family, which is Richter, so they can join forces to counter the upcoming chaos that will soon be casted by the vampire Messiah, known as Countess Elizabeth Bathory, a wicked, sadistic master vampire whose inhumane atrocities are the stuff of legend. Tara, Maria's mom, is traumatized after hearing the name of the vampire Messiah and tells them her backstory. Tara was born 4,000 miles to the east in Russia. At the banks of a great river, she saw how people were suffering and treated with cruelty. So her family, a clan of Speakers, settled there for a while to help ease their sufferings. That was when an army of vampires showed up, and it was led by the vampire Messiah. Her entire clan were brutally massacred by these creatures. Her only sister that helped her escape was captured. Tara sneaks inside the castle of the vampire Messiah to rescue her sister, and here she sees the most horrifying thing in her life. Countess Elizabeth Bathory doesn't kill her victims, but she tortures them as long as she can keep them alive. Tara killed her sister, who was turned into a vampire, and ran for her life until she arrived in France. After the story, as a team of vampires hunters they are, they decided to go to Chateau, the base of the vampires, to learn more about them or even burn that place to the ground if they have to. When they arrived at Chateau, Annette tells them about the Forge Master who must be helping the vampires create more night creatures, using the corpses of the humans. If they just find out the identity of this Forge Master, it will be instrumental for them in fighting the vampires. Annette suddenly sees her former slave master, Comte de Vaublanc, at the meeting. She couldn't hold her anger and tries to attack, but Eduard calms her down. Unfortunately, the vampires realizes their presence and attacks them. These creatures are far too many to take down on their own, so they all make their escape. Annette uses her magic to create a bridge, but sadly Eduard gets caught by the vampires and out of options, the group has to leave him to his fate. Annette cries, blaming herself for Eduard's death, but Maria and Tara consoles her, saying he knew the risk when he chose to come with her. We see vampires gathering the bodies of the people they recently killed, including Eduard, and they are being transported to the Forge Master, so more night monsters will be created. To our surprise, the bodies are being taken inside the church. The Forge Master is revealed to be no other person but Father Abbot himself, making deals with the devil. The bodies are being placed in a kind of machine which transforms them to night creatures. As Annette sings songs of lamentations, she recalls a moment in her childhood. She was living happily with her mother until Vaublanc, a disciple of the vampire messiah, shows up and murders her mother, sensing her magic to be a threat. Annette has always kept her mother's lullaby in her heart. The songs are ancestral calls connecting her to African deities beyond plantation. After her mother was killed, the slavers had problems in caging her because she never gives up in an escape attempt. 10 years later, when Annette turns 16, the slavers tries to brand her, but a power she inherited from her father's bloodline gets activated, the power of the god of war and iron, Ogun. With her powers, she manages to escape. Vaublanc and his men searches for her in the city. Annette hides herself in a theater, which is where she saw Eduard for the first time. An amazing opera singer entertaining the audience with his angelic voice. Vaublanc enters the theater with his dogs in search for his slave. Eduard tells him to leave. Upon realizing how disturbed the audience were with his presence, decided to go out. Eduard finds Annette hiding in his room. He tells her to remove her wet clothes and replace it with his silk. He doesn't know her from anywhere but treated the slave as an equal and with kindness. Eduard helped her escape to the mountains to join the Maroons, a group of escaped slaves mobilizing a resistance which she joined. It was there she met a priestess and her master Cecile, who taught her how to control her magic and have a better communication with her god, Ogun. All the Maroons gathered around a fire to pray to Ogun on a glorious battle against the slave traders. The battle between the Maroons and the slavers begins. Annette, accompanied by Eduard, charges inside Vaublanc chambers to kill him, her slave master who murdered her mother. They almost killed the vampire when Annette unleashes her iron powers until Vaublanc suddenly transforms to a bat and made his escape. Annette meets Cecile to inform her of their victory over the slavers. She met the priestess traumatized after receiving a prophecy. A vampire worse than Vaublanc will soon come, and their suffering and numerous deaths is just a tip of an iceberg. She is no other person but the vampire messiah herself. That was what prompted Priestess Cecile to send Annette to France to look for Richter Belmont, so they can stop the vampire messiah. Eduard could not let her go on her own and decides to join her on this mission. Annette concludes her story to them while doing a burial for Eduard. Richter assures Annette that they will avenge his death no matter what. During a preaching in the church, we find out that priest Abbot Emmanuel is against the revolution. Maria and her people are having Catholic churches destroyed, including all statues of Mary as part of the change, but this is intolerable to the priest. He would rather take sides with the unholiest creatures, the vampires, to stop the revolution by any means possible. He sends hordes of night creatures to attack Maria and her people. Richter, Annette, and Maria split up to fight the monsters. Annette is in shock when she recognizes one of the monsters to be Eduard. He even saved her life from an attacking monster from behind. The other night creatures takes him away, while Annette cries in bitterness as her kind, sweet, beautiful Eduard has been turned into a night creature. Back at Maria's home, the team suspect the church to be where the Forge Master is, and Maria's suspicions is posed on Father Abbot, whom she believes might be working for the Forge Master. Tara argues against this, being certain Abbot is a good man and was even the one that helped her when she came to the city. Annette wants the team to attack the church so she can rescue Eduard or even grant him a mercy killing, then watch him suffer living as a night creature. Richter argues that they will all be walking to their deaths since they have no plan, but the argument gets resolved when Tara reveals to know a secret underground passageway into the church, and this time she decides to provide a helping hand on the mission. Meanwhile, Orlox meets Mizrak, the general of Abbot's army. He warns him that making a deal with the vampire messiah is a grave mistake because as soon as they are no longer of use to her, she will eliminate them all. A disciple of the vampire messiah called emissary Drolta Swentz meets with Father Abbot. Her master sent her to work with him, and as well ensure a faster creation of more night workers. The team finally entered the church using the secret underground passageway. Tara is so heartbroken to find out that Father Abbot, whom she trusted, is the Forge Master and works with the devil. Drolta and the night creatures of Father Abbot attacks them. Annette weeps with pity after seeing Eduard. Richter is confronted by Orlox, the man who killed his mother. He gets terrified by his presence and runs away. The others are also forced to flee, leaving the fight for another day. Annette is so disappointed with Richter, who ran away, and prepares to rescue Eduard on her own. Maria and Annie begs her to at least wait for Richter to come because she stands no chance against Orlox and Drolta. Shiva recollects her troublesome past when considering Richter's reaction to facing his worst fear and leaves with a statement, "If I let my past terrify me, I will never be free from it." On the road, Annette is confronted by Voblunk, her former slave master. But Annette already knows his weakness, which is his fear for the Christian God. She uses her iron powers to make dozens of crucifix that traps him. Voblunk tells her she can kill him, but the vampire messiah can never be stopped. Ursabet the vampire messiah had formerly killed Sekhmet, the Egyptian god, and swallowed the blood, which turned her to a goddess. Annette doesn't give a damn about his words, but only waited for the sun to rise. When it does, Voblunk is burnt by the sun, and she finally gets her revenge on her mother's killer. Father Abbot pays a visit to Tara and Maria to give his reasons on why he joined sides with the vampires. If his God is as powerful as he says, what is the need of fighting for him? Tara knows he is not doing what he did for the sake of the church, but for his own vanity. She wishes to have never met or knew him in the first place, but Abbot replies with a slip of tongue that if that happened, Maria would have never been born. Maria hears this in shock, realizing that one of the persons she hated the most is no other person but her father. She runs away, feeling betrayed by Tara, who lied to her that her father was dead. On the other hand, we see Richter once again in the restaurant. The owner refuses to give him any food since he has no money unless he is ready to wash the dishes as payment. To his surprise, a food is presented to him after an old man sitting in a corner in the restaurant decided to sponsor his meal. He meets the old man to thank him, but a vampire enters the bar looking for that same old man. Richter notices that his whip is gone. The old man took his whip and used it much more better than he ever did. He beheaded the vampire at one swing. The man introduces himself as Richter Belmont, his biological grandfather. During full moon, Drolta and the other disciples gathered to welcome the arrival of the vampire messiah, Ursabet. Drolta presents a piece of offering to her, the daughter of the revolutionary deputy. Ursabet feeds on her to quench her taste. Richter is furious on why Just kept this away from him, but the old man makes it clear of not wanting to be burdened with the responsibilities of being a grandfather. Gesta tells him how he was a hero once, killed so many vampires, and even lost count. That whip Richter is holding was once his, but he had other powers. Gesta was the most powerful magician the Belmont lineage has ever produced, that he barely needed the whip because he can kill a whole nest of vampires with a burst of flame. But after he lost his wife and his best friend to vampires, the ability to conjure magic left him. During their conversation, dozens of vampires attacks and captures them. The moment Richter is about to be executed, the urge of protecting the people he loves triggers his lost powers. Using water and fire, he killed the vampires effortlessly. On the other hand, the vampires welcome their queen, Ursabet, into the city. Drolta informs her that Father Abbot has a daughter, and if they capture her, they can buy his loyalty forever. Soon after, some vampires attacks Maria and Tara. At the dying moment, Richter shows up and gives them assistance. The vampire messiah tells Abbot that if they must work together, she has to be fully sure she can trust him. Abbot has to prove his loyalty to her by sacrificing his daughter Maria. Now as the team reunited once again, they begin to make plans to stop Ursabet, but to do that, they have to find the tool that the Forge Master uses to turn corpses into night creatures. Ulrach suddenly swoops in, revealing it's a machine. They are trying to fight him, especially Richter, his mother's killer, but the vampire had already dropped a book that will help them, and if they really want to defeat Ursabet, they will have no choice but to trust him. Maria sneaks inside the church and warns Abbot of their upcoming attack. She wants him to leave the church with her, and as well give him a chance to be her father once again. But sometimes blood is the only way. The priest instead captures her to be used for sacrifice and other to prove his loyalty to Ursabet. According to the book Orlox gave the team, they find out that the machine cannot be destroyed, but it can be sent to hell. The book can enable them to create a portal, and with Annette powers, they can push the machine through it. A knock on the door interrupts their conversation. It is Mizrak, who informed them on how Abbot is about to sacrifice Maria to the vampire messiah. While the team hurries to save Maria, a bigger problem arises. The vampire messiah uses her powerful hex to hide the sun, creating enteral darkness as a result, which empowers her, and she turns into her Sekhmet form. The team enters the church and rescues Maria just as she was about to be sacrificed by her father. Drolta enters the church and engages in a fight with Maria and Richter. Annette goes to the dungeon to find the machine and to rescue Eduard, but he tells her he doesn't need her rescue as his work here is not finished, and showed her the room she can find the machine. When she finds it, Tara uses her powers to open the portal of hell with the book, and Annette begins to push the machine inside the portal. This process is interrupted when the vampire messiah shows up. Tara and Richter attacks her with everything they've got, but their powers are no match. While they beg Abbott to turn his night creatures against the devil to save his daughter, Ursabet tells them to fear not, as she intends not to kill her, but instead make her a vampire. Her mother begs to instead be the sacrificial offering, while Richter uses the chance to escape with the team. Just as Drolta is about to get hold of them, she gets impaled from the back with a sword. It is Alucard, the son of Dracula. That was how the show ended. Thank you for watching, guys. If you love animation movies, please subscribe to this channel and keep watching. Bye.
And that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe for more awesome content from Cartoon Crunch, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Let me know in the comments what your favorite part of the show was, or if there's a cartoon you'd like me to cover next. Thanks for watching, and until next time.